Hey guys, Omni here. We're going to be checking out Eric Voss over New Rockstar's breakdown on the Easter eggs and details we might have missed in episode 2 of Marvel Studios' What If. Before we dive into this, I do want to address a couple things from my reaction itself. If you've seen it, apparently some people did not like what I had to say, or just some minor criticisms and nitpicks that I had about it, and legitimately some things that I did miss. Like some people called me out on saying something being a stretch should not apply to something like What If. I will push back on that in one way, and that is because the series itself set up a premise from the very beginning with the first episode. Obviously, they said we are following the events, following branches where certain changes occur and deviate. Like the first episode, we followed the timeline from the split decision of Peggy Carter when she decided to stay and how that affected things. Now on this one, same thing. We follow the events and how they change due to Yondu making the decision to send his goons rather than himself to find Peter, and they come back with T'Challa instead. So we follow his changes from that point onward. We have to remember that yes, these are different universes, but we're only seeing deviations from the main universe from the point that the Watcher initiates the story. The past from that point backwards is still all the same. These aren't wholly separate universes where everybody in this universe are pigs. Everybody in that universe are spiders. Everybody in that universe is cartoons. Like, it's not like these universes aren't vastly different. Not the ones we've seen so far. I'm not saying that's not going to change, because obviously once we really get into things, and if we have the Sonyverse crossover with the MCU, there's clearly going to be our anime world and our Spider-Ham world that are going to interact with the other platforms. But like, from what we've seen so far in this, and the general premise is we're just seeing the original timeline that we know to a point, and then from that point it branches. And I think that's the point where I think some people aren't kind of understanding where I'm coming from. The thing that I didn't understand is that, I didn't catch the readings, why they ended up Wakanda whatsoever in the first place. I missed that. I misunderstood that, like why they went there. Obviously, they were looking for cosmic readings, and Wakanda is just booming with vibranium, and that's what they were detecting. Though, in defense of myself in some way, they did have a picture, and I do feel that them being like, well, all humans look alike is just a little lazy. But it doesn't mean I didn't like the episode, because if you stuck around throughout, I really liked the episode. I just had some nitpicks, and apparently just questioning this whatsoever upset some people. I also said that some characters seem out of character. The two specifically that I referenced was Korath, who I could understand in the world that a Star-Lord that matters and is doing things in the world and changing things could attract some fans from some unsuspecting people. But to that extent, that seemed like it broke character to me. It was funny for a little bit, but it ran it into the ground throughout the rest of the episode, because it was just, he became a cartoon character, a Looney Tune character at the end of the episode by that point. He was a borderline Daffy Duck. The other thing was Drax. Why is he a bartender? I don't know. It's funny. I thought it was funny, but if you think about it, based on the MCU canon, he's from an underdeveloped world where they're tribalistic and warrior race, and they take things too seriously, literally, and all that stuff. So like, the only reason he ever left his home world was because it was attacked by Thanos and he wanted revenge. So if T'Challa prevented that, why is he up here taking selfies with random people and having a star? It's just like, at a point, it felt like some people, it felt like they were just kind of doing it for the lulz. But it didn't destroy the episode for me. And people act like I hated the episode or just tuned out rather than seeing the rest of the reaction whatsoever. I really liked it. I loved it. Especially T'Challa's part in it. Like Chadwick Boseman's performance, what it would actually be like. And I do feel like that despite those two things, those two characters being a little weird, those decisions being a little weird, everything else I feel like makes some sense. Like, it would make sense. T'Challa's personality versus Peter's personality, they have different traumas that when they went into space, they came with it. They carried that baggage. Peter's caused him to retreat inwardly. So he wouldn't have had that ability to connect with these people that he met along the way in the way that T'Challa would. T'Challa would be up there like freaking Naruto, just befriending everybody. And that's what he did. And it improved the galaxy for the better. And I like that. That was a love letter to T'Challa. And I loved it. To Chadwick Boseman. And it worked. And I had a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry that I'm late to getting to this video. I spent most of yesterday evening at the hospital. Everything's fine. It was just a weird little reaction that I had to something I ate. A little bit of a scare, but we're here. We're safe. Everything's fine. And we're going to be checking out this video. So sorry about that little rant. A little frustrated. A little tired considering everything last night. Anyway, all that out of the way. Let's go ahead and check out the video.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Marvel's What If Episode 2, which explores what would happen if T'Challa became Star-Lord, spared us all from Thanos, and left us with the Collector cosplaying as Hela. Those antlers don't belong to you. You don't deserve it. Set in my favorite corner of the MCU, the cosmic toy box of the Guardians of the Galaxy, this episode is filled with Easter eggs and subtle details, so let's break this down frame by frame for everything you missed. And big announcement here, we have a new latest obsession shirt, Cosmic Witness,
hey,
that you can get at our
I
merch
like
store,
that design.
This shirt
Might
is
have
awesome,
to pick that
like
up.
all of our latest obsessions, limited supply. And when you get this one, you'll get the added option to write in a custom shout out that will appear at the bottom of our Inside Marvel after shows. So again, you can support New Rockstars directly by getting this shirt at newrockstarsmerch.com. We open on Morag, coordinates M31B, J0044 3799 plus 4129 236, the same as those in James Gunn's 2014 film. Coordinates that Gunn has hinted point toward his infamous long-lost hidden Easter egg that he confirmed we at New Rockstars got a big piece of. The Watcher ponders.
I wonder what the hell that is. That's the first I'm hearing about it.
Or by the nature of your world.
Getting at the deeper theme of nature versus nurture in this episode. Both Guardians films explore the idea of family and whether Peter Quill is forever cursed by his biological lineage or capable of redefining himself with a family of his own choosing. This episode ends up making a compelling case for nurture, with formerly scarred characters like Yondu, Thanos, Nebula, and Drax all positively benefiting from the experience of the fresh altruism of T'Challa in their lives.
Damn.
And T'Challa's formerly royal attitude of non-interference, now reshaped by his life as an explorer with all of them. And this episode ends with a dark cautionary tale favoring nurture, with the fear of what would have happened had Peter Quill not been nurtured by his chosen family. This opening scene has a few contrasts between T'Challa's approach and Quill's. T'Challa doesn't have an awesome mixed playlist to dance to, and Quill put the gravity trap on the floor, whereas T'Challa holds it in
confidently
his hand
pulls
and
it
later
in like that.
repurposes it as a weapon. And of course, there's Korath's reaction.
I'm just a junker, man. I was just checking stuff out. Hey, you know what? There's another name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
Versus
I'm just an ordinary junker, but there is one name you may know me by.
Star-Lord! I'm a huge fan of your work.
now Chadwick
See,
Boseman
like it had
goes-
it stopped there, I think that would have been fine. But quickly, some things I didn't even consider when I was watching it that people pointed out that like, why did Chadwick Boseman, why did T'Challa's character go with the name Star-Lord? Again, it's one of those things we just have to push past, and I gotta turn off my analytical brain when I'm watching this, which I'm learning now, guys. It's okay, calm down. Was like, why did he go with that? Because the reason Peter did was because his mother, that was like her nickname for Peter, was he was her little Star-Lord, because he was this gift from her, from this lord from beyond the stars. So like, there was like this little connection there, but it's just one of those things, you just gotta hand wave it away. I just wanted to put that out there because I didn't think about that during the reaction, but some people had pointed it out to me.
T'Challa here, one of 4 episodes this season that he recorded voices for before he passed
okay,
away
so
a
this
year
isn't the
ago
last
this month.
time
Jaimon
we'll
Hansu
see him.
returns as Korath,
Or,
and
well,
he's having a lot
hear
of
him,
goofy
rather.
fun in the role. He says,
Should we be bowing? I feel like we should be bowing. I mean, unless we should be kneeling.
Neither is necessary.
Please.
similar to Bruce Banner's reaction to meeting T'Challa in Infinity War.
Should we bow?
Yeah, he's a king.
What are you doing?
We don't do that here.
Michael Rooker returns to voice Yondu, whose animated form has fewer random straps, and his jacket is a brighter Ravager red than the darker tone of his live-action wardrobe, showing off how he's not as too cool as he was before. Less of an overlord of his crew and more of one of the guys. T'Challa says,
If we still made like the old days, you'd only have half of your teeth.
Yeah, in the film, Yondu had a mouth full of golden teeth, but here you can see all of his teeth are still mostly in place. T'Challa continues.
That's a nice little
Wouldn't
detail.
you rather use it to jumpstart the Colorians' dying star? Save their system from extinction.
Colornians! That's a deep cut to the rom comics of the 80s, where Colornians were a race of cat-like beings. T'Challa wants to save them because he comes from a panther-oriented culture.
Oh,
and he probably has an affinity for all
wow.
things feline. Now, instead of the Milano, T'Challa named
The
his
Mandela.
ship the Mandela. My favorite detail from this episode. When T'Challa was abducted
I actually
in the
caught
year
that one.
1988, Nelson Mandela was still a political prisoner. Mandela's South African dialect of Hosi was what the spoken language of Wakandan was based on for the film. And Mandela's voice
didn't know
recently
that.
cameoed in the MCU,
Yeah,
echoing through
I
the
remember
cosmos
that.
in the Loki finale.
We have fought for the right to experience peace.
Now, 20 years earlier in Wakanda, young T'Challa meets with his father T'Chaka, with John Connie returning to voice the role in the Wakandan throne room. And he wears traditional tribal garb over his Black Panther suit. Both of them are dressed as they were in a very brief flashback in Black Panther. Interesting detail here, as T'Chaka
nice.
first walks up, there are two thrones side by side, perhaps for T'Chaka and Queen Ramonda, or for father and son, but later in the wide angle, it's back to just the one throne. Maybe an oversight, or a sign of T'Challa's abdication by leaving Earth behind. The Watcher's voiceover says,
What you call destiny is just an equation. A product of variables.
yeah, interesting choice of words when you consider the recent What If promo displayed Uatu's pitch using the interface of the TVA.
Follow me. Enter the multiverse of infinite possibilities. Where the stories you thought you knew are nothing like you remember.
No treasure is worth as much as the good that can be done with
Huh.
And
I
describing
didn't
the
actually
multiverse
I haven't
as a
seen the
math
promos.
Equation mirrors the explanation of He Who Remains, creator of the TVA, in that Loki finale. He had a series of nonlinear integration equations on his chalkboard. Yeah, just note these two are speaking a very similar language, and I will remind you that in our season preview, I predicted a post-credit scene in which He Who Remains hosts the Watcher in his Citadel chamber moments before Loki and Sylvie arrived. The Wakandan border wall has, as it does in the films, a hexagonal grid structure
Interesting.
which matches the UNT and navigation grid of the universe seen in the Guardians films, Captain Marvel, and Endgame. Later this episode, we will learn that the Wakandans were actually experienced in space travel, meaning some of their tech might have been extraterrestrial influence. Kraglin is voiced by Sean Gunn again.
I mean, technically, all of it is because, you know, vibranium is from space. So, in essence, most Wakanda technology is technically alien.
And Taserface, the mutineer in Volume 2, voiced again by Chris Sullivan, explain.
I don't know, all humans look alike to me.
The cosmic readings where he was took nearly broke our dial. If there was anything not from that planet on that planet, it's there.
Referring to the meteorite in the prologue of Black
See,
Panther.
I missed
that's
that
now the
line,
mines
and I
of Mount
admit that.
Bashenga.
I'm
Then,
sorry.
Back in the present, 20 years later, the crew hangs out on Contraxia. That's a snow-covered planet that we saw in Guardians Volume 2, but whereas those Ravagers hung out in the scummy street level, these guys kick it in the classy nightclub. Still, throughout the background, you can see the yellow sex spots hanging
Yeah.
out. They relive their war stories.
What about the central bank heist of Darnex 4?
Never hurts to hurt a scroll, right?
Yeah, Tarnax 4 is the Skrull home world. First mentioned in the MCU, it might in the live action things be under Kree occupation since the Skrulls were refugees in Captain Marvel. We might visit this place in the Marvel film. Korath says,
Or how about when you arm the Ankaran resistance?
yeah, in the Marvel comics, Ankara is the homeworld of the Slig. It's from a 1979 Fantastic Four comic. And then this reveal.
How exactly did you stop Thanos, the Mad Titan, from decimating half of the universe? Oh, no.
I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong.
Josh Brolin returns as Thanos, having
That
moved on
smirk.
from being a Malthusian eco-terrorist thanks to T'Challa showing him the light. Now, T'Challa, having grown up in a bubble untarnished by imperialist conflict, instead in a peaceful state of tribes who settle their differences at Warrior Falls and share their resources with each other, might have been that X factor to break through to Thanos' sociopathy. And yeah, 20 years after 1988 would be 2008, right as Tony Stark started to become Iron Man, and 4 years before, Thanos would have sent Loki to attack Earth. So this Thanos hasn't even gotten close to his conquest of Earth and his warpath in the Infinity Saga. The bartender, meanwhile, is Drax.
You saved my home world from a Kree invasion. Let us take a picture to send to my wife and...
In that image, for just a split second, he looks like in the face like Ramses from The Prince of Egypt. Like, hold on, I'm gonna rewind it just a little bit. Like, holy crap, I just noticed that. I thought it looked weird or familiar to me in a weird way. Like, I don't know, it's that head. I like it. I don't know. It just reminded me of that real quick. Don't know why. Random. Sorry.
to send to my wife and daughter.
Not voiced by Dave Bautista, though the producers of the show said that they tried to get in touch with him. But yeah, Drax is referring to his wife Yvette and their daughter Kamaria, the Kylosians killed by Ronan on Thanos' orders, but now another planet saved by T'Challa in this world. Nebula appears, Karen Gillan returning to voice her, now unscarred with hardly any cybernetic implants since Thanos must have spent fewer years torturing her, or might not have tortured her at all. T'Challa tells her,
You know he gardens now. You should talk to him. He really has changed.
referring to Thanos' retirement as a farmer on the Garden in Infinity War and Endgame. Nebula tells him about a heist she's planning.
Do I have a job for you? They're called the Embers of Genesis.
Yeah, the music is the same jazzy heist music used in the Ant-Man films.
Yeah.
I was at a wine tasting with my cousin Ernesto, which was mainly reds, and you know I don't like reds, man. You know, but there was a rosé that saved the day. It was delightful.
Nebula calls the Embers of Genesis
Nutrient-rich cosmic dust from an ancient supernova with the power to terraform entire ecosystems. With 1 ounce, you can heal a dying planet in minutes.
Yeah, the Embers of Genesis aren't specifically in the Marvel comics, but they do seem like the same kind of cosmic particles that the Eternals might have used on ancient Earth to enrich the soil for agriculture. And yeah, this is the kind of reallocation of resources to stave off hunger that Thanos was referring to. He and Nebula butt heads here.
I thought you work alone, daughter.
Wait. You mean she's your offspring?
Adopted.
Yeah, a callback to one of my favorite MC running jokes between Thor and Loki.
And he's my brother.
He killed 80 people in 2 days.
He's adopted.
I've never met this man in my life.
He's my brother.
Adopted.
Now, in Thanos' absence, the Collector, Taneleer Chavon, seen in Guardians of the Galaxy and in Infinity War, has emerged instead as the feared tyrant of the galaxy. Which does make sense because the Collector, for a few minutes in MCU history, had both the Power Stone in his possession while the Reality Stone was hidden elsewhere in his vault. And he knew what both of those were. He was very close to being a rival to Thanos, if you think about it. T'Challa and Yondu argue in the Collector. This is the massive Ravager ship that Yondu escaped and destroyed in Guardians Volume 2. Yondu says,
We steal from the rich and give to the poor, just like that Earthling folk hero of yours, right? Robin Leach.
Robin Hood.
Robin Leach marveled over excessive wealth and lifestyles of the rich and famous. Love that joke. Nebula says,
The Collector's got a
I didn't
famous
get
cake
that
for
one.
exotic flora and fauna.
yeah, reminding
The
us
joke,
of when
that
the
is.
Collector weirdly
I know
offered
who
to buy
Robin
Groot's
Hood is.
corpse. Now, Benicio del Toro said in an interview that Tavon sees himself as a Noah figure, his collection an ark to rebuild
Kinda like
after some
Brainiac in a
galaxy-wide
way.
destruction. And Groot, as a Flora Colossi who respawns after death, could be made of a tissue rooted in the Embers of Genesis. Then on to Nowhere, Tavon has the Black Order running security. So we see Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, Ebony Maw, and Cull Obsidian all returning from Infinity War and Endgame. But Karina greets them, voiced again by Ophelia Lovibond from the movies, and she introduces them to Tavon.
I present to you Taneleer Tavon, the Collector.
Oh, my dearest Nebula, aren't you a sight for sore eye? Forgive me, I couldn't help myself. Oh.
And yes, Benicio del Toro has returned here to voice the character. One of his collections appears to be a giant Wakandan rhinoceros, looking about as animated as it did in the live action film. He now wears this elaborate chest plate that looks Asgardian in nature, or at least something designed by Eitri. It has these interesting engravings, not too dissimilar from Fandrol's chest plate, or maybe a version of the Asgardian destroyer. In the vault, there is an easy to miss container with the giant cocoon from the post-credit scene Thor: The Dark World, which at first seemed like it was going to be
we
Adam
still
Warlock's
have not
cocoon until James
come
Gunn
back
changed
to.
it to have a new golden cocoon in the Guardians Volume 2 post,
Of which we have not come back to.
An ancient version of the Sovereign's cocoons. They pass Cosmo, the space dog, who growled at Rocket in Guardians Volume 1, but here he wags his tail at T'Challa. Another contains a dark
Yeah, I
elf.
didn't-
And then of course Howard the
Also didn't think about it like when we were watching the episode was that we didn't see Rocket at all, which was I thought a little strange. We also didn't see Gamora yet, but I think there's a What If episode dedicated to Gamora down the line. So I was like, out of everything Guardians wise, we didn't see Gamora or Rocket or Groot for that matter. So it was felt a little empty, man. I wanted to see what was going on. T'Challa, Rocket would benefit immensely from a personality like T'Challa, I think, given his insecurities. That would have been an interaction I would have really liked to see. But again, I thought the episode was great as it was. It probably would have been a little too packed at that point.
Howard the Duck, with Seth Green returning as the voice. He directs T'Challa to the Embers of Genesis.
Cosmic Flora down the hall. Take a Louie at the Frost Giants, a hard Ralph at the
Ah, I
corners.
can
You gotta see
hear it
something for
now.
Elvis
I can
literature,
hear
ignore
Seth
that.
Green now.
Total snooze.
Screw it.
Yeah, I love that scared quack at the end there. Yeah, he mentioned the frost giants. Those are Loki's people. Cronins, those are Korg's people. And elvish literature. Maybe a joke about the long, dramatic elvish dialogue we all had to sit through in Thor the Dark World. Howard says,
You know what they say.
That
when
too,
you're
I
out of
guess.
luck, always go duck.
I'm pretty sure no one says that.
Oh, they say it.
Really?
Totally.
yeah, another little quack at the end there. It was a little rewording of his line in Guardians Volume 2.
You know what they say. You're out of luck until you've gone duck.
Howard stops for a drink at this bar that looks a lot like the Mos Eisley Cantina bar from Star Wars, though the bartender is the robot that kind of looked like a Celestial that was in the Sakaar bar serving Valkyrie drinks in Thor Ragnarok, so that bar just might be that setup. And T'Challa runs into this garage, which is filled with spaceships that we've seen before. Front and center is a Commodore, that's a pleasure craft of the Grand Master Endui Gas from Thor Ragnarok. That's actually Tavon's brother, because they're both elders of the universe. Now to the right of that is another ship from the Grand Master's garage. That's a green painted cube that Taika Waititi joked that he designed with an intentionally dumb shape. And then to the right of that, closest to us, the Quantum Realm vessel of Hank Pym that he used to rescue Janet Van Dyne. Now, this being 2008, no, it doesn't really make sense for Devon to have this because it didn't exist yet. But above that, looks like an Avengers Quinjet. Then further on the left is a yellow Star Blaster. That's a fighter piloted by the Nova Corps fleet. And then to the left of that is a green ship with folded wings that looks like another ship from the Grandmaster's garage. Then to the upper right of the Star Blaster is the Necrocraft, piloted by Ronin Sicarian soldiers in Guardians Volume 1, and then another one of these was hijacked by Nebula to kamikaze into Thanos on Titan in Infinity War. Now on the far left, looks like it could be the Milano, though the wing engines are completely different. And then just behind the Star Blaster, looks like it could be an X-Wing from Star Wars, but the S-foils look completely different. Then T'Challa's necklace lights up when he finds a
looks like it didn't have its bottom wings.
Yeah, that was the sound of the talking drum. That was part of composer Ludwig Göransson's score for Black Panther. And again, proof that Wakandans were involved in space exploration, which is crazy. Now, the interior of this craft is covered in...
Now, were they involved in space exploration in this timeline because T'Challa got taken? Because he's been up there for years at this point. So who knows when that went up? I don't know that this necessarily confirms that Wakandans in the main MCU timeline have attempted space travel, but it is just kind of a good note. Obviously it carried this message, which he's going to get to here in a second, so I might be double dipping here, that of, them reaching out into the stars, and if anybody out there has seen T'Challa and all this stuff, to let them know. So this emergency beacon did go out there when they went out exploring. So I was like, okay, well, I feel like that was their motivation to take to the stars, was the absence of T'Challa.
Wakandan lettering, which I took the time, of course, to try to translate, but I only made out a few words. You understand wasn't, and then you insane. Then in the cabin as we face the cockpit, it looks like positive, and then on the right side and negative across the top, and then down the sides, simplify and then on the other side, make shapes.
What the fuck?
But T'Challa finds these mannequins wearing Dora Milaje garb, meaning the collector must have killed these soldiers and now has their wardrobe on display. And he sees his Papa's
Oh, yeah.
My son,
I don't know why I didn't even think about that.
Prince of Wakanda was abducted from Earth by an alien spacecraft.
Yeah, the music there might sound familiar. That's the mournful ancestral plane track from the Black Panther score. Ebony Maw binds T'Challa by using the broken glass, similar to how he repurposed broken material in his fight against Doctor Strange and the others in Infinity War. Siobhan uses a Cronin arm against T'Challa.
Packs quite a wallop, does it not? I hacked it off the carcass of a terribly chatty Cronin.
Terribly chatty Cronin, this guy cut off Korg's arm.
Yeah.
Now, during this fight, I like how the talking drum picks up pace, just like it did to build up tension during T'Challa's Warrior Falls duel in Black Panther. Tavon's weapons include Captain America's shield, which in 2008...
Okay, again, this was just my brain being really dumb the night I recorded this. Also, guys, try to forgive me. I recorded three shows in that one night and 2 prior to recording that one. Even though it released first, that actually was the 3rd one I had recorded. But I was like, holy crap, what if that's Peggy Carter's shield and this is just a continuous exploration of her branch and the different choices? Because the Watcher said that branches lead to other branches. And I was like, didn't even comprehend, for whatever reason, that it did not have the UK Jack on it. So like, I was like, okay, what what is going on? Anyway, just me being dumb.
Would have been frozen in polar ice, as well as Mjolnir, and then a dagger forged in dark matter taken from the ruler of the Dark Elves, that would have been Malekith's dagger, and then of course the headpiece of Hela, whom Tavon emulates with his gesture.
Oh, that woman had taste. A necrosword, courtesy of the Asgardian goddess of death.
No clue how he would have gotten this or any of this stuff, because Hela is a freaking goddess of death. I don't see how he could have taken it from her. Meanwhile, as Thanos and the others fight in the security, I love this, you can hear a bowling pin sound effect as he knocks him over.
I didn't hear that.
When Yondu saves T'Challa, the Guardians of the Galaxy
the
music
first
plays.
time.
Yondu, sweet. Now it's a party.
T'Challa and Yondu use the sticky fingers trick on Tavon to steal his gauntlet control. The same maneuver Tony Stark used on Thanos to steal that gauntlet in Endgame. And then on the reveal, we hear this great music.
I love this sound.
This is more music from the Black Panther score. And one of the prisoners closing in on Tavon is a Pluvian, the same race as Martinex from Sakaar Ogord's crew from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. As they leave nowhere, the embers of Genesis that killed the Black Order cause life to spring from that skull, making me wonder if it could reanimate in some form. They return to Wakanda and reunite with the family.
That would be
Queen Ramonda
crazy
is
if
wearing
it
the same
could.
white robes and headpiece that she wore when she greeted T'Challa on his return in Black Panther, and they all dine Okoye in Thanos talk.
My friend, that sounds an awful lot like genocide.
No, because it's random. And I might add, efficient.
Korath talks with Shuri. Meanwhile, Kraglin says,
Jump points are the best. They make your face all scrambly. They're a lot of fun.
referring to their lightspeed jump sequence in Guardians Volume 2. And the final scene takes us to that Dairy Queen in Missouri, the same one from Guardians Volume 2. But here, adult Peter Quill listens to Space Age Love Song by A Flock of Seagulls. Could be from James Gunn's Awesome Mix Volume 3, since Volumes 1 and 2 mostly stuck to 70s music. Ego says,
What, Peter? Can't spare a little time for dear old dad?
And his ship is parked out front, all while the Watcher says,
Too bad this might spell the end of the world.
Bringing us back to that nature versus nurture debate of this episode. Further proof that nurture is so important, because for the Watcher to consider this apocalyptic means that Peter needed his experiences with the Ravagers and the Guardians. He needed to meet them first in order to know how wrong his biological connection to Ego was and be able to fight back against him. And the closing title card pays tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, the hero this episode thankfully gave us another adventure with. Support new rock stars by checking out our merch options at Neuron.
All right. Some great Easter eggs. Great ones, man. A lot of stuff definitely I would have never picked up on. But yeah, it was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great little love letter to Chadwick and just the character T'Challa. But as I learned in this, some of you guys, I feel like might know already. We got a couple more episodes where T'Challa, gosh, man, I keep mixing things up in my head between the characters and the actors all the time, man. Where Chadwick Boseman will be voicing the character again, or, well, maybe not this version of the character. Who knows? But we'll see, because we know Peggy Carter's character comes back up in a later episode as well. So I would be curious to see if we see this version of T'Challa again, or just alternate versions of T'Challa coming forward. I think we saw like a zombified T'Challa, but I also could be mixing that up from the actual comic itself in my head. But yeah, so that means there's 3 other appearances that he's recorded for. So we will at least be hearing Chadwick and his voice again real soon. Rest in peace, my king. Anyway, guys, I'm really excited to see where they go from here. I'm going to loosen my expectations going forward and just, turn off that analytical side of my brain as we're going through it, so I don't upset anybody anymore. Anyway, guys, that's been my thoughts on this. Again, great video from Eric Voss over at New Rockstars. If you're not subscribed to these guys, go ahead and check them out. I highly recommend them. Please do. I do want to shout out our channel legends, Mandy Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, and Philly Vane. If you want to continue to talk about Marvel's What If, the MCU in general, DC, film in general, TV, whatever, come hang out in our Discord or follow me on my socials. All the links to those are in the description of this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.